Hi, this is Esther Lynn for MMAfighting.com. I'd like to share some of my favorite photos from UFC 170. To kick off press events for UFC 170, UFC held a press luncheon in Los Angeles back in January. One of the more memorable conversations was Ronda Rousey discussing her affinity for pro wrestling and how she got her nickname. At which point Daniel Cormier responded, "Wait, you can just take other people's nicknames? Well then I want to be Macho Man Daniel Cormier." A week before heading to Vegas, we're collected in Glendale for a media workout with champ Ronda Rousey. Normally, fighters' open workouts aren't particularly extensive in MMA, but Rousey seems to put in a full session, and we're treated to a variety of training techniques, and they were a delight to watch. Ronda Rousey trains at the Glendale Fight Club right off Brand Boulevard. For as big of a star as she is, here is Rousey working out by the giant windows in full view of midday traffic. And after the rush of media has packed up their sundry recording devices and left, Rousey and her coach Edmund sit quietly discussing today's training in the now silent, mostly empty gym. The first morning of fight week for Olympian Sarah McMahon is a handful of phone interviews and breakfast in her hotel room. McMahon sits here in the glow of early light, reviewing her engagements for the day. Hours later, far from the peace of her hotel room, the challenger Sarah McMahon has finished her public workout and is now seated cross-legged before the media scrum on the arena floor. Fellow Olympian Daniel Cormier relates a story about first finding out that Rashad Evans was injured. Thinking that there would be no fight, he snuck to Popeyes and ate some fried chicken. But since he'd been eating so healthy for his first drop to light heavyweight, the greasy food proved to be a worthy adversary for the undefeated Cormier. UFC newcomer Pat Cummins participated in the first open workout of his career, and being an amiable guy, Cummins addressed the small, friendly gathering of fans at the Mandalay Bay, letting them know that this was his first time, and he asked them for suggestions on how best to entertain them. Fighters have an array of duties during fight week, including photo shoots and marketing lines, and here is Sarah McMahon, after sitting in a makeup session and photo shoot, waiting for her turn in the video room. Then, in the room, McMahon read copy and recorded the opening for the pay-per-view. McMahon had difficulty being brash about why she could defeat Rousey, felt that she couldn't be untrue to herself, especially in a medium that would follow her for the rest of her life. McMahon had confidence, but not bravado, so she and the crew worked together to come up with a solution to accommodate McMahon's principles. After workouts, photo shoots, and other responsibilities, Pat Cummins took a snack break by a giant banner of himself affixed to the wall of the media room. Funny thing about that photo, I took that image back in 2010 when Pat Cummins had his pro debut in Strikeforce as part of the EA Sports and Sherdog Fighter exchange. At the time, I was shooting for Strikeforce and can say I had no idea it would end up as material in a UFC pay-per-view. The next day at the press conference, what began as playful bantering escalated at the face-off when Cormier shoved Pat Cummins. While it seemed a little comical, and Cummins' reaction was to laugh, I asked DC about it later in the evening during his weight cut, and he said, I like the kid, but I wish he would just stop talking. He didn't have to say all that stuff about wrestling. Thursday came to a close, and DC had cut 8 pounds. He checked his weight against the official scale. Cormier and his team make the long walk back from the workout rooms to the hotel. This hall is also the back end of Mandalay Bay's Central Bakery, and is almost always filled with the aroma of croissants and cakes. Seems like torture to make the fighters in their weight cut walk back and forth past stacked trays of cooling pastries. The next day, Cormier finished up his own weight cut with the weigh-in for his personal coach's challenge. Here, Coach Rosendo Sanchez triumphantly makes weight and yells first at DC and then at my camera. An hour later, we're at the arena and I'm watching Ronda Rousey take the stage for the official weigh-ins. The weigh-ins go off without a hitch, and while Rousey and McMahon are respectful, their stare-down is piercing and fierce. After the weigh-ins, Cormier and his family gather for dinner in his hotel room. Tons of family and friends filled the suite, and there was hardly a place to rest, but Cormier found a chaise for his mother, and they had a quiet moment. As I left Cormier's room, I told him, "Good luck tomorrow," to which DC replied, "You know I got this." It's fight night. Here's Octagon girl Vanessa Hansen rounding the cage. Eric Koch moved up to lightweight after a few devastating losses at featherweight. He looked fresh and full of energy, and after his KO victory, he said what I like to hear fighters say. He thanked his coaches and his own work ethic. Koch started fighting rather young, so I would guess that Duke Roufus is a very important influence in his life, as so much must have changed in just the last few years. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson wins his fight by KO as well, and while calmly walking around the cage in victory, he does a sudden flip, landing unassumingly into a superhero's pose. These elbows made such a violent sound. I could hear the bones, skin, and blood mashing. Waltberger's body flailed in a way that belied his immobility. Almost seemed like he was trying to wiggle out of Mike Pyle's mount, but if you looked at his eyes, the Texan was done. Cormier discussed after the fight how, as he's gained experience, he's become less and less nervous. I shot Daniel Cormier's pro debut in Strikeforce in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I remember him being apprehensive but powerful. Now, here, Cormier said he felt no butterflies, but calmly stepped into that octagon to face whatever foe would stand there. And as luck would have it, I didn't have the best angle on the fight from my post at the cage, so as Cormier left, I made sure to ask for him to pose. I am always secretly or not so secretly rooting for Strikeforce fighters to succeed. Then Rousey and McMahon walked into the cage, and I looked through the chain link at Rousey, who was doing her usual loosening ritual, while McMahon paced back and forth. Even as she stretched, Rousey kept her eyes locked forward on the challenger. And just as soon as it began, the fight was over to the surprise of everyone. I felt this early stop was unfortunate for both fighters. McMahon deserved to show more of the work she'd put forth into this fight for the title. And Rousey's improved control and striking, particularly her bodywork and elbows, were overshadowed by the premature conclusion. Even with that end, the post-fight press conference was still light as Rory MacDonald revealed the bandage on his hand to be a small stab wound, courtesy of his attempt to slice an avocado. A rare laugh came from the young fighter, admitting to poor technique. Between questions, I stole this photo of the bantamweight champion because I felt that it made her look her age. Rousey has likely matured at such a rapid pace between international competition, the Olympics, and being UFC champion, so I enjoy this moment where I see her as a young woman, poised for even higher pinnacles in life. Granted, Rousey isn't a child, but I think she possesses a youthful enthusiasm towards the mountains she climbs. And I think perhaps one of the best rewards for winning is to celebrate in the embrace and love of your friends. As Rousey leaves the post-fight press conference with her housemates, some of whom will also be fighting in the coming months. A year after her debut in the octagon, we are all here. A good year of women on the biggest stages of fighting, and on the eve of another women's division in the UFC. The same hopeful feeling I had a year ago, I have again for the bright possibilities ahead. This is Esther Lynn for MMAfighting.com. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in Dallas.